Hello YouTube. The video that we're going to watch today together is one that's going to make you completely rethink everything you thought you knew about how Bach is supposed to be played at the piano, and might just make you rethink everything you thought you knew about the way the piano in general is supposed to be played. Hi, my name is Jason Paul Peterson. I'm a professional pianist with a doctoral degree in piano from the Peabody Conservatory. Have had the good fortune to play concerts all over the world, and in this video I want to walk you through, from my perspective, what's so amazing about Horowitz's performance of this piece. The piece is called Nun komm, Heiden Heiland. It's a piece that's originally for organ and was arranged for piano by a composer by the name of Busoni, who was also a great pianist himself. This is so remarkable. It's remarkable what Horowitz does with the piece. The piece itself is incredible. I have never heard sounds like this, and I'm not saying that just to be hyperbolic. There are things in this performance that just are crazy, and I'm going to walk you through them. So without further ado, let's just dive right into this and see what Horowitz does with this amazing Bach-Busoni arrangement of Nun kommt der Heiden Heiland. This piece has a very slow introduction before it really takes off. And we're going to stop right here because this piece gets crazy right about at this moment, but I want to talk just a little bit about this introduction first. This introduction to the piece happens before our main melody comes in. In this sort of chorale prelude, we have interludes, and then we have the main melody, which Horowitz is just going to make soar like an eagle. It's incredible. He makes it sound like an organ. But you hear in this first section, he's very, very subdued. He doesn't take much time. He's just moving this very straightforward, not much a whole lot of rubato in the tempo, meaning there's not much stretching of the rhythm. It's pretty much straight. And he does a beautiful job of distinguishing these two voices in the right hand. So I'm going to play these two voices with two hands so you hear this. This is what happens in the right hand. This separation of these two different voices. He, of course, has to do that all in one hand because the left hand is busy with these octaves. And now he comes in with this main melody, and listen to the way that he distinguishes this from everything else going on in just almost in a hypnotic sort of fashion. Says, look at this amazing melody. And remember that on the organ, this melody would probably be played with a different sort of sound on a different keyboard. And this is where Horowitz really shines here with his incredible control of sound. Listen to this. That melody on the top. It's just so singing. Wow, and that's really crazy. So you got to remember in this piece that Horowitz, he said once, in fact, that all music is to me romantic music. And what he means by that is that every kind of music, not just Chopin and Schumann and whatever you have for your romantic composers, but composers like Bach, like Mozart, are also all about the expression of human emotion. And he does something here which is so wild if you're thinking about performing Bach. He does this. Now, we would never do this sort of decrescendo, going back like this in a performance of Bach. It's just way too romantic. But he's thinking of this piece, and there's a good argument to be made that Busoni was also thinking of the piece in this way, as a romantic piece of music, as a romantic work. It's not about Bach, the sort of intellectual composer. He's thinking here about the feelings, the expression of the music, and so forth. And so that sort of going back and really taking the line back like this is 100% something that you would hear in romantic music. You know, it's like something you would hear in Schumann's Träumerei. And by the way, something like this. If you haven't seen my video on Horowitz's performance of Träumerei, check that out because it's also pretty crazy what Horowitz does with the sound there. Let's continue on a little bit and listen to what he does with the part coming up in this piece here. Wow, and such a huge ritardando there at the end, right? He's really, really pulling the music back. And if you compare to his tempo at the beginning, like I said, normally we think we have to play Bach, we've got to keep a steady tempo like this, like he does at the beginning, very stately. But then we get to the end with this melody. And the music just slows down so much. And what Horowitz is doing here is he's basically taking that melody and saying, this melody is so beautiful, it takes as long as it takes. If I have to stretch out that melody, if the left hand has to wait for that melody, then so be it, because this is the most amazing melody in the world. And it's almost hypnotic. I mean, if you count, you should try counting along with Horowitz's performance here in this section when the main melody comes in, because whereas at the beginning you'll find yourself counting 1 and 2, and suddenly you get to this part where the melody comes in and it's like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, all of these crazy changes, because Horowitz is, like I said, he's thinking first and foremost about that melody. The melody is leading, is guiding everything. And if the left hand has to wait, well, that's just too bad, because the right hand has something to say here, and the right hand, by God, is going to say it. And so, he just really allows the music all the time it needs. Now we're coming into another one of the middle sections again. He's going to play more straight, he's going to take less time, and he's going to bring the sound way back again until the main melody comes in again. Here we go. This is another one of the interludes, so the sound is very subdued, very soft. Oh, and that's very interesting. So did you hear the way he did this? I'm exaggerating a bit, but you hear the way he brings out this D? Now, with Horowitz, there's always a reason for everything. There's some sort of logic behind it. And when I first heard that, I thought, why is he emphasizing that D? But then it becomes really, really apparent, because what happens to that D? Listen to this. D resolving to the C, right? So he plays it so loud because it starts to decay, and he wants to show us how that D goes down to the C here. And on the organ, of course, that would be no problem, because the notes don't get softer with time. But on the piano, they start to get softer and softer. And so he points that out to us and says, listen to what this D is going to do. You have the top voice, and then the D steps down to C. It's just such a brilliant little touch. And now we get into the main melody again, the section where this singing melody comes back, and listen to the way that, again, he just makes this melody sing in a way that sounds so much like an organ. Here we go. Here it comes. Listen to the separation there between the top voice and everything down below. Wow, so he pulls back again on the top voice there. Normally we would think we're playing Bach, we need to just do it more sort of standard, in a standard way. When the melody goes up, you make a crescendo. When the melody goes down, maybe you make a little bit of a decrescendo, but we would never, in a million years, normally think with Bach, I'm allowed to do this. It's so romantic. And then he, at the same time, shows us this inner voice, this voice in the middle. All of those different voices that are going on at the same time here, he brings out and lets us really hear everything. Let's keep going. Inner voices. Whoa! And that is just outrageous. This sort of taking so much time and bringing the melody, bringing the dynamic so far back. This is, you wouldn't think that this is even allowed. If there were a music police, you would think they would show up and say, hey, wait a minute, you're going to get a ticket for this because this is so crazy. I'm really curious, though, to hear your reactions, because people are very split on Horowitz. Some people say, oh my gosh, this is just so incredible. And then there are people that say, oh man, this is way over the top. This is way too cheesy. This is just crazy what he does with the dynamic. It has nothing to do with Bach, which is true. But you really just can't deny the genius and the creativity of the playing here. Okay, let's continue on. Two and three and four. And you hear how much rubato is in the playing there. It's really just almost outlandish how much he stretches the time there and changes the eighth notes. This is something that in Bach is really unheard of. And, like I said, we're probably thinking of this more as a romantic piece already from the time of Busoni, he was probably conceiving of this as a romantic piece, and Horowitz certainly goes along in that vein. It's not really much of Bach except for the notes themselves, but the interpretation, very romantic. Continuing on. Now we're in the interlude section again, in between the appearances of the main melody. Listen to the way he shows those two voices. And now the top voice again, just singing so beautifully. It sounds like a completely different instrument up on the top, the same way that it would on the organ. Waiting. Oh, it's so painful. I mean, gosh, we call these sighing gestures in music, this sort of da-dum, ba-dum, bum. It's just so painful, right? These da-dum. It's like the expression of longing, of suffering. Da-dum, bum. And he gives those so much time, and really just emphasizing the first one, letting it resolve, feeling the sort of the pain and the tension in this and this. Really so heartfelt there in that moment. Continuing on. I'm just really speechless. Wow. And now, here we get a much different color, very powerful suddenly, and we have here what we call a pedal point in the left hand. That means the C here in the bass is staying the same. It's very, very stubborn. It's not moving, but we get changing harmonies up above, this sort of stuff. All these different chords, right, over the same C in the bass. Really kind of cool. And Horowitz brings that out, and amazingly, this is another thing to talk about in this piece. This piece is like a masterclass in how to use the pedal. You have these things going on in the right hand. Sometimes you would love to change the pedal, but you can't because then you'll lose the bass note. But what you can do is sometimes use half pedals so that the notes in the bottom still kind of carry through and the notes on the top still are changed a little bit from one harmony to the next. And if you think about what we're taught with Bach, we're always taught when you play Bach, you're not supposed to use so much pedal. It's supposed to be very dry, right? It's not supposed to ever blur together. Horowitz completely changes our conception of that because a lot of times he really lets the notes blur together in certain spots. They really, really have a sort of interplay as he keeps the pedal down. But then at the same time, there are other places where he plays very, very clearly and dryly, and particularly, in these spots, in the interludes. This is much drier, but then we get places like this where there's a lot of blurring in the pedal, and it just creates so many amazing colors. So if you listen with headphones, I would really recommend this because you hear some of the cool things that he's doing also with the pedal in this amazing performance. Going on. Showing that lower voice. Whoa, and this is very cool too because he shows this awesome inner voice and this awesome resolution. We get, okay, this is fine. And then he brings out this thumb, this D, and you're like, why is he bringing that out? Why is that so important? But with Horowitz, he'll show you. He'll always show you. He'll leave you hanging, but then he'll eventually show you what's going on. So we get the D, it resolves, and then this D goes down to the C, right? It's so cool because we have here what we call a deceptive cadence. We're expecting, right? We're expecting this harmony, like a 5-1, what we call a dominant and a tonic harmony, but instead we get surprise. And not only do we get a surprise, but this D doesn't even fit in with the surprise harmony. It doesn't even fit in with this crazy chord that we go to. So we get the surprise of going to E flat here, deceptive cadence, and then the surprise of the D resolving downward after that. It's incredible, and Horowitz just, it's not easy to do, but he brings out that D so that we're thinking, whoa, why do we need to hear that? And then it goes down to the C and shows us that amazing resolution. Let's keep going. Same thing here. Resolving. You know, these notes are so long on the piano. This one, I'll show you here. This B flat here, which goes down to A eventually. But it takes such a long time on the piano. On the organ, that note would stay the same. But here, you have to keep it held from here to there and show that connection. This is such a fun piece to play, by the way. If any of you haven't tried it, you should absolutely play through it. It's just brilliant, amazing music. Bach is, you know, probably the greatest composer of all time, in my opinion, in the opinion of Andras Schiff. I've heard him say this too. It's just out of this world, incredible music. The way all these voices interplay, the way one harmony leads into the next, and you have this independence and yet complete interdependence of the voices, really spectacular. Going on. Listen to this C, this note, still hanging on, and now continues on. So, you know, I was talking over that, I apologize, but let me point this out. This C right here, he emphasizes it. Listen to how long it stays. C, watch my thumb. The C is still down. And now connects to the D here. It's an incredibly long time. On the organ, you hear those harmonies better normally when normal people play this piece, but with Horowitz, you hear it just as well on the piano as you would hear it on the organ. Really amazing. Listening to every note. This is so important in piano playing, and Bach is great for this. You listen to every note and hear where it continues on in all of the different voices going on at the same time. Let's keep going. Again, the top voice. It sounds like a different instrument. Wow. A little bit of a... Oh! Surprise! He's giving us a big sound. I thought he was going to go back again. Whoa! And what a surprise there, right with the boom! This big note in the bass, such a surprise there, all of a sudden out of nothing. And it's really important that he hammers this G because again, as you hear, as we go through this next section, the G is still down there in the bass and it has to carry for such a long time. On the organ, you'd slam that note with the pedal, with your foot, and it would continue on. Horowitz slams it with his hand and just keeps that note in our attention and does this amazing sort of half pedaling over the top of that. Listen to how he does this section. It's really remarkable. Here we go. Listen to that G on the bottom. Still there. Still there. Still there. He hit it again. Yeah, so I'm just flabbergasted by this. He hits this G and then somehow manages to keep that in our attention through all of this stuff and just slowing down the tempo so much because this line just needs so much time. It's such a beautiful melody and the G down there is still going on. This is another one of those pedal point that I was talking about. The bass note stays the same and everything over the top is changing with the harmonies. And then we get finally this cadence, which is also really interesting. We'll talk about a couple things. The last measure of this piece is actually a stroke of genius on the part of Bach as well. So let's listen to this very ending. Wow. He keeps this hanging for so long, really slows it down. Yeah, it's like this piece, it's like a religious experience. It's incredible. Now, this last measure is just such a stroke of genius on the part of Bach. Would you believe, if you listen to this at first glance, You might sort of think that this is all one melody. Would you believe that there are actually 4 different voices in the right hand? We have the G, which lasts right until the end of the measure up here on the top. We have the second voice of da 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 dum bum. This one da 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 dum bum. And then we have the C, which goes down to the B, up to C, and down to B again. And then we have the G on the bottom, which goes down to F sharp and G. And Horowitz shows all 4 of those voices in such an amazing way. You hear the interplay of all these interlocking voices, and that's what's so amazing about Bach. The way that Bach conceived of music as this sort of layering of different voices, and it fits perfectly actually with Horowitz. It's a shame that he didn't play more Bach, because he was, if anybody could hear all of those different things that are going on at once, it's Vladimir Horowitz. So I am just absolutely amazed by this performance, and I hope I've shown you a little bit of the genius, not only of Horowitz, but of Johann Sebastian Bach and of Busoni's arrangement as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out this channel. Looking forward to sharing more of this wonderful world of piano music with you. Happy practicing. See you again soon.